Well, hello there, Apple Bites. This is your Apple Bite, Rafael Tavares, talking to you straight from our show here, The Written Writ, a show where you and I and you take a journey together to become better writers. Of course, you know we love creating, we love comics, we love everything here. All things geekery have influenced my writing style. So I always love to check out what's going on out there. And when I was on TikTok roaming around, I ran into this fellow right here, Victor Dandridge. Right?
Hello. Yes, Dandridge is. Yeah, you're right there. Absolutely, dude. Thank you so much for
getting the name right when I'm not sure what.
Listen, that's nameology is one of those things where you gotta try it just a little bit and see if you got it. No, nothing wrong with it. Thank you.
I like saying people's names, but there are times where I'm like, I'm gonna massacre this name, so I am not saying.
Man after my own heart. If I know I can't, I will be up front and be like, how about you just tell me what it is so I can hear it? You know.
Oh, I do that all the time. I'll be like, and our guest, what's your name?
Say your name for me because I don't want to. Well, like it's funny, not to name drop, but Fabian Nicieza, right? The famed comic book writer.
He's pretty cool.
He's super awesome. Yeah. But for the longest time, I could not say his name. Like I got nothing. He had to say it like 2 times for me to hear it and go, "Oh, it's Nicieza." Okay, simple. I just couldn't translate.
It's so funny though. After you hear it, you're like, "Oh,
of course that's
why didn't I see that?"
Duh. What's wrong with me? Yeah.
Oh my God. I like I was telling you behind the in the green room.
Mm-hmm.
I love your TikToks. I love the knowledge you have of comic books. You know, and that's what caught my attention before I figured out that you were actually a creator. And I was like, oh, he's a creator. Well, let me check him out and see what he's doing, you know, especially because, you know, in this day and age, it's so great to find more creators of color.
Thank you.
You know, and I like to put this stuff out there because, you know, you have that audience out there that goes, what are you talking about? There's no creators of colors. There's no heroes of colors, you know, and it's funny, you know, and we've discussed this on the Apple before, where there are so many heroes of color out there and nobody knows about them.
That's so true. There's a literal wealth of them, indirect representation. And kind of what we were talking about off air, in indirect representation, there are a ton of, you know, characters of color, if you will. You know, we were talking about Spider-Man. So the idea of Spider-Man's, you know, whole message, right, is with great power comes great responsibility. Everybody knows.
Yeah.
It is a distillation of W.E.B. Du Bois's The Talented Tenth, that it's literal Black philosophy. If 10% of a population can do something with power, it's their responsibility to use that in favor of the remaining 90%. Responsibility. And you ask a 3-year-old, they can quote you Spider-Man and don't know that they're quoting Black philosophy the whole time. You know, so sometimes you gotta find it in places that it's not obvious, but it is obvious. You know, you just gotta.
Knowledge in comic books, and that goes back to what we were talking about in the green room. It's that whole concept of people going, I'm not letting my kid read no comic books. You know, this is just stupid stuff.
It's not. It's literally not. It's some of the greatest content. It's accessible. It is challenging. You know, so one of the things that I do in addition to, you know, writing and publishing my own comics, I have a program called You Create Comics. So I'm making comics into classrooms and showing how it, you know, encourages and fosters enrichment, education, things like that. It is amazing to me how many educators are still on the sly side when it comes to, well, are comics valuable? Yes. Generations of readers, like, come on, like, they teach you plenty.
What's funny is that I've been running into, you know, and it's funny because we've had them on the show, a couple of them, more teachers who are writing comics, and they're using the comics in the classroom because, you know, it's such a great teaching tool. You know, and I feel like most people forget, you know, I don't know, in the 70s, I do remember some comic books before I started collecting, and they were the ones that I would get in the classroom, and they were from Marvel and DC, and they would do the special comics for the classroom.
Like the no smoking.
Yeah, no smoking, energy, you know, all that stuff, you know.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, So now that I'm thinking about it, because we're talking about it behind again, another way that I was introduced to these characters, and I didn't know what the comic books were at that point.
Right? It's
All
such
right.
a real thing, man. It's such a real thing.
So Angel here saying, "Hey fellas," and I have kids. If she doesn't read comics, they're getting disappointed.
Just bring them up right, okay? Just give it to them, and just tell them like this is part of it, okay? You know, this is you know, this is religious content here, okay? This is what we believe in. We believe in the comics. Do it.
It's so funny, you know. I find that now it's a little more difficult for you not to get involved in this because, again, like we were saying behind the scenes there, you know, it's such a popular thing.
Yes.
You know, there's no stigmata attached to it anymore. There's no, you know, you read a comic, you watch a movie, you're fine. You know, because the popular people are doing this stuff. There's none of that. What, you're Dominican and you're reading comic books? What's wrong with you? Why aren't you dancing a merengue or something?
You're like, I can. Don't think that I can't. Okay, that's number one. But number two, yeah, I do this too. Like that's the thing right there is I do this too. And you know, comics are such an open-ended thing at this point. I've had this conversation many times when we talk about what are comics, right? You know, when you say that, if you don't put like a caveat or a formative, you know, definer at the end of it, it's literally anything. It's video games, clothing, toys, movies, TV. Like it's so wide that yeah, everybody is into comics. The true interesting thing is the appreciation of this current generation. I can appreciate their love affair of comics. That's awesome. Just be respectful of those people that didn't have that popular entry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that, you know, as not to belittle anybody else's legitimate civil rights struggle, but there were a lot of people that were, you know, ostracized and bullied outright for their love of this.
Definitely. We, you know, our one of our Apple teenies, Leslie, you know, she grew up with all this stuff being, you know, taboo. You know, now she's really she's coming into it now. She's enjoying it now because, you know, now she can actually enjoy it, you know, not that she didn't enjoy it back then, but now it's more like, oh, okay, you're into that stuff.
And that's an opening statement.
Phoenix? Oh, okay.
Listen, I know people that in terms of online dating, their question starts off, are you Marvel or DC fan? That would have cut you off from dating when I was growing up.
Like Marvel and DC. Wait, I'm not dating you.
Yeah, like never mind. Like, no, you know, and that's you know, a true progression. I'm very proud of where we've come to, but you got to remember where we come from. That's so important.
From the book of Saint Batman, the verse goes as such. And that's how it is now. Now it's like that. Now it's like
as we read
religion.
Verse 1, I am the knight.
Exactly.
Verse 2, you know, like that's
if
brilliant.
Your parents are killed, you can survive this. You can overcome. You can become a better person.
Dedicate. That's all. That's what we're saying. You know, there's that's the parable right there. Overcome the yes, 100%. I'm all for it.
It's so funny because you know, Spidey, you know, Spider-Man especially. He was such a big thing for me, especially as a kid, you know, especially growing up, because, you know, you're going through all this stuff. And again, like we were speaking behind the scenes there, we thought we were alone. You know, it was just like, okay, it's just me going through this. You know, nobody else is going through this. And then I started reading Spider-Man, and Spider-Man is having his high school problems. Bullies are picking on him. You know, he having his problems at home, and all this at the same time as being a superhero. And you're like, oh my God, this is the stuff I'm going through.
You know, and I don't have to fight Doc Ock. I better chill out. Actually, I kind of got it easy, don't I?
And it's so funny because, you know, I tell a lot of people I like Tom Holland as Spider-Man. He's pretty good, but this is not my Spider-Man.
Sure.
My Spider-Man was this self-made superhero. He didn't need any parental figure to make him who he was. He didn't need you know, it was Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben was what made him who he was, and from then forward he just exuded that fact. This is who raised me. Absolutely. And I'm showing you by my actions how well he raised me.
Well, I think what you're talking about is the distinction of stories that feature Spider-Man, and how there weren't really, like, in the vast catalog of it, there weren't a lot of them that took place while he was in high school.
No.
Because he had to grow up. Like, that was literally the story, was he had to grow up.
Yep.
So it's quaint. And Tom Holland, I do love him as Spider-Man. He's a fantastic,
great, yeah.
Yeah. But it's just the nature of what type of Spider-Man he is. I'm a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man fan. I always will be.
Great. I loved it. It was a good movie.
Yeah, it was great. And the idea of how quickly they got him out of high school.
That was quick, yeah.
That was it. It's why, because the real stories really begin when he's Spider-Man, not high school age Peter Parker. So
I have to agree with you too, because as I was growing up, he grew up with me.
Yep.
He was in college, and then he had those issues, the college issue, trying to do your studies while you're working, while you're being a superhero.
Yep.
And you're sitting there going, "Oh my God, I'm going through this too." I'm going exactly through this. And then he was married, and with Mary Jane, and I know that Marvel's like retro that whole thing. They don't like the married Spider-Man, and they try to make sure that you don't remember that he was married. I remember he had a kid.
Oh my God! Yes. All of these things,
dude, man. This is the Spider-Man I grew up with here.
Yes.
You don't need to like get not do the young Spider-Man, but at least give me, the stories on how this older Spider-Man is becoming who he is.
Yes, because those were magical, because they literally you grew up with them, right? Exactly. And in the cases of how alone we felt, they were our friends, like, and to see a friend's existence, wiped out literally for commerce is one of the darkest things ever, because you're like, well, we sell more Spider-Man if he's not attached. You're like, but that was my guy. Like, he was my friend, and you're just going to undo him? Like, okay. The benefit, of course, is that we still have those old books. We still have access, so we can still go back to that guy. But, I think that's very important. It's okay. So I have a confession to make, and it's a brutal one. When I was growing up, for me, and I think I'm probably like 10 years younger than you are, right? Because I was born in the 80s, right? So we'll say 10 years. So
you're exactly right, 10 years.
Yeah. So for me, Milestone was always an issue for me. I didn't like Milestone comics because it was a little too on the nose for me culturally. Where Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, Hulk, the X-Men gave me something to aspire to. Milestone always bothered me because it was a little too much of what was right outside my door, right? So things like Blood Syndicate, you're talking gang life in the early 90s. When I'm a teenager, that's really prevalent. Gangster rap is huge, and there's a lot of pushback on that. So the last thing that I wanted was something that was so representative of what I went through every day. I didn't want that. So to have something like Spider-Man be, so magical to touch base, with me, and to see that change in a way that almost erases what it meant to me, that's hard, and not to sound like any sort of gatekeeper. It's important for people to understand this is what so many of us are latching on to, is this was our safe place. And while we love that more people are there, it's sometimes difficult when, in order to let other people in, we have to let go of our safe space.
Exactly.
And that's hard. Like, it's there are times when we absolutely should, but then, because ladies weren't as openly accepted in reading comics.
Oh no,
when we were growing up.
It was worse for them than
yes. It was. Oh my goodness!
I had girlfriends who were into that stuff, and they kept it such a secret.
And you're like, baby, I'm into that too. You're like, no, you're gonna make fun of me. Like, no, girl, I love that.
Don't worry about it.
I'm telling.
I've had a lot of girl best friends, and it was interesting. And I know it was one of the reasons why was because. As I came into their lives, I was like, "Oh, right, you like this comic?" And they're like, waiting for me to say something. I'm like, "I like that comic too," and they're like, and then they go like this: "What the hell's wrong with you?"
He's like, "No, we're in this together,
man,
together. I got you. Say less. I got you." It's too funny, but it's the absolute truth. We tease and we laugh now about how open things are, but that's the truth. We couldn't communicate about these things. It wasn't the thing. Like my son's mother, it's the funniest thing. So I saw 2002 Spider-Man. I walked there the day it came out. I walked over to the theater and I watched it. And it was one of those situations where I was like, okay, we're gonna go see this movie again tonight. And if she doesn't like this, I'm gonna have to break up with her. Like it's just that simple. Like I'm gonna have to, because
I can understand what you're saying.
Yeah, like this spoke to me on such an authentic level. Like this is who I am, and if you don't like this, then you can't like me. Ugh. We never had the wherewithal or the compunction to be able to say that when I was growing up. So I'm so lucky that I got to see that transition, and the kids today are so lucky that they don't necessarily have to make such a determination. And
that's what I like about today is the fact that you don't have to make that determination. I do agree with you. There is way too much gatekeeping in our environment.
Yes,
I'm like, dude, let go, let them enjoy it, let them have fun with it.
Absolutely.
I also feel like there are times where instead of like helping this movement forward happen, the people who are doing these movies and these comics are making it worse.
They can be. They can be. Yes.
Because instead of going, okay, look, we understand that you guys are Star Wars fans, so we're going to give you a nice ending, and then we're going to move forward and start something new. Now they go, well, your stuff sucks, so we're going to cut it off, and now we're going to do this new thing, and you better like it. And I'm like,
better.
Wait.
The new thing is going to be the best thing ever, and if you say otherwise, you're not a real fan. You're like, whoa.
We can end my stuff and continue the new stuff. I don't mind, but come on, give me a good ending here.
That's what it's so funny. Okay, so here's where I lose all viewers that were on my side. So Avengers Endgame, I enjoyed the experience immensely. It is something that will be a hallmark in time for me for the rest of my life.
Definitely.
But it's not a good movie. And I say this to people, and they're like, how could you say that? I'm like, listen, I'm all for the celebration of what it accomplished, how you feel while you're watching it. We all know that moment when Mjolnir flies forward and then it comes back and Steve catches it and you're like, yes! You lose your mind.
Oh my God. Every time I watch that scene, I'm like,
yes. But the truth is, from a narrative standpoint, they're not great. And it's okay to love something that is not good.
Yeah.
That's fine.
We grew up like that. We liked a lot of stuff that wasn't
good. Like, I tell everybody, they're like, what's your favorite Superman movie? And I'm like, Superman 4 Quest for Peace. And they're like, what? And I'm like, I didn't say it was a good movie. I said it's my favorite. Okay. There's a difference. Okay. There is a huge difference.
Been killed.
Listen, I can run really fast, and that's what saves me, because you talk about stones and sticks and all the horrible. What? You can't like that? I'm like, I do that.
I already get a bad look when I go, I like Superman, the original Superman that they made. It was fantastic. It's a Superman full of hope, and they go, how can you like that crap?
Because it's amazing. Like you turn it on today and it still holds up. Yeah. It still gives you that. You will believe a man can fly. Yes, I do.
I gotta admit it. Yes, I believed it then. I still believe it now, even knowing what I know.
You can't tell me otherwise. Like the little kid in me is still there, and I agree. Like that's just one of those things where I think that's the folly of the newest iteration of fandom is to believe that you like something because it's good, as opposed to you like something because you like it. Right. And that is something that, having that difference allows for people to like different things. Mm-hmm. It's up there with, like, if I were to ask you your top 10 Batman comics, if I were to give my top 10 Batman comics, we might have some of the same ones on there, but I doubt very seriously that they'd be the exact same.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're missing. Like, that's the thing that we don't get to do anymore, because for whatever reason, we've gotten to the point where one side has to be right, as opposed to just, this is how I feel.
Yeah, and it's everything. It's not just comics. It's politics.
Yes.
Everything is either you like it or you're against me. I'm like, hey, I don't have to like it.
I could be literally in the middle. Let me be in the middle. It's all good,
Oh, if we're talking about stuff I get people get flack for, here's something I get a lot of flack for: the Dark Knight movies.
Okay.
They were good.
Yeah,
but they're not my Batman.
I get that. 100%.
And as soon as I say that to people, how dare you? How can you say that? How that was like the best Batman ever? I'm like, no.
I mean, listen. Just out of curiosity, what is your Batman iteration? What is your favorite?
I have to admit, I like Keaton. He did a great job in '89. It's amazing. It's what Batman in movies pretty much is. I'm hoping that this new guy does great with
Robert Pattinson
coming out.
Yeah.
And I do like what's his face? Oh, I'm always bad with names.
Affleck.
Yeah, there you go, Affleck. Okay. You know, his Batman is gritty. It's nice. It reminds me of that Batman from the '90s.
Yes. I like that. I'm with you all the way around.
The Christian Bale Batman, and it's not even about Christian Bale. It's about the way they wrote that Batman. I've never seen a Batman that quits for 8 years. I have never seen a Batman that quits for 8 years, and I stopped doing it because I didn't want to do it anymore. I'm like, what?
You know, it's funny. Okay, so this is the most amazing thing. We just became bestie of friends. Like, it's not even. So that's always one of the things that I always felt was wrong. And I can't think of another word for The Dark Knight Returns, because the idea that The Dark Knight would ever have quit in the first place is hogwash. Like, the only acceptable story that I've ever read that would explain why Batman quit is the opening of Batman Beyond.
Yeah. But see, you have a good explanation there.
You have a great explanation as to why he did that. So
he actually makes the suit so he can continue to do it. But
yep. And the moment he has to pull a gun, he's like, I'm never doing this again. Yep. I 100% agree with that. Like, that's a Batman that says, I've gone so far that if I have to physically threaten somebody with a gun, I can't be Batman, because that is the antithesis of being Batman. Then I'm not Batman no more. And to that point, he never comes back as Batman, because Bruce is like, I can't do it. Nope. I'd rather there be another guy as Batman than me do it, because I had to do that. That works for me. So I wholly agree with that. Yeah. But again, doesn't mean that you can't enjoy it. Doesn't mean that you don't want other people to enjoy it. That's the other
thing. It's like they act like I'm saying it was terrible. I didn't like it. No, I went to see all three of those movies. I enjoyed seeing all three of those movies. I still hate Christian Bale's I am Batman. What's going on? I'm like, dude, man, there's a better deep voice than that. You know, I love oh my god, what's his name from the cartoons?
Kevin Conroy.
Oh my god.
Yes.
His voice was Batman. This is Batman. I can understand this deep voice is Batman.
He's fantastic. First of all, so I've got to work with Kevin a few times, and he is fantastic. His being of Batman is so authentic. Like, it's like you'll hear it just as you talk to him, because Batman has like a deeper timbre than what he does on a regular basis. But you can't help it. Like, you just sit there and listen, like, you're Batman.
Exactly. I can hear you, Batman. And I've seen interviews, and I've seen him in certain cons, and it's just amazing to see the difference between his Batman and himself, because it's two different people.
They are, but it's there. You can hear it. It's so good. I have asked him
asked that recently. Somebody asked me, "What's my favorite Batman and what's my favorite Joker?" And I'm like, "It's Conroy as Batman and Hamill as Joker."
Who can argue that? You know what I mean? Like, that's my thing right there, is that there's a certain era of fandom that you say something like that and they go, it might not be mine, but then you go, but I can't argue. I can't say that you're wrong. Like, you're absolutely right. That's fantastic. Like, because again, I wasn't even a comic book fan at the time that Batman the Animated Series came out. Like, not when it started. Like, I became a fan thereafter, but that is what Batman sounds like to me. That is what Joker sounds like.
It's so funny because you're right. When I was reading the comics and I would hear Batman's voice, that's what I was hearing. I was hearing this type of voice. I wasn't hearing, I am Batman. Angel says, I hate Christian Bale. And he also says his Batman and Bruce Wayne voice difference has always amazed me.
because they are brilliant. They are absolutely brilliant. It's so cool. So cool. Did you know that he went to Juilliard with Christopher Reeve? Like they were friends. So Batman and Superman knew each other. There you go.
So much sense,
right? Batman and Superman knew each other. Like it's the coolest thing in the world.
That's amazing. Yeah. and then it's funny because people get upset when I say I like the '66 Batman, but it's amazing.
It is.
If I had to call somebody Batman, it would be Adam West.
Yes. Out of respect. You know what? Okay, so this. I used to do 8-bit pixel art designs, right? So, I would set up, sell prints of them, all kinds of stuff. And I had this big banner that I had a game. It was called the 8-bit challenge. If you could name 10 characters that you select, you would win a prize.
Interesting.
And I had like a row of different types of Batman. And one of them was the Adam West Batman. And I had a young kid that, was probably like 8 or 9 years old. And they're like, why do you have so many Batmans? And I said, oh, well, this is, Batman. This is Dark Knight Returns Batman. And this is, Adam West Batman. He goes, Adam West from Family Guy? And I'm like, no, from Batman. What's wrong with you? It was such a boomer moment. Like, I can't even lie. Like, it was get off my lawn. Like, no, he's Batman. You don't give me that family. Like, I get it. He's on Family Guy. That's awesome. But he's Batman. You watch your mouth. Like, don't you? Where are your parents at? Like, what is this? Yeah, Adam West will always be Batman. Like George Reeves, Christopher Reeve, like they have cemented in pop culture that place, and they deserve it. Like they raised a generation as that character, and especially at a time when nobody took it seriously. Like, it's super important. Got to give them their
totally, and I feel like, not being a gatekeeper or anything. I feel like what happens is that there's no respect.
Right. That's what it is. No respect. That's what it is.
I don't mind you enjoying your stuff, but respect what's come before.
Yes. Do not throw the baby out with the bathwater, because that's the type of thing that will get you like looked at cross, like super cross. I'm all for advancing. I'm all for changing when it makes sense. As a X-Men fan, I love how they've played with Cyclops and Cyclops' devotion to, Xavier's dream, because he is probably the perfect person to challenge, Xavier's dream. If it doesn't work, he's the guy that takes that the hardest, because he was the first student. He was the one that was like, yes, I'm there. Whatever you say, Dad, like.
Let me ask you this then. Because my issue with Cyclops, and because when I started reading Cyclops, when we first got Cyclops, he was in par with Captain America. Yes. He was in par with Spider-Man. He was Cyclops, the leader of the X-Men, and then as time has progressed, he's become Cyclops.
And that's the problem right there.
Oh man,
that is the problem, literally right there, because. Okay, for those of y'all that don't know, okay, back in the day when Cyclops reached for his visor, everybody freaked out. Okay, they were like, no, like we can figure out something else. Like, don't unleash your optic blast. It had a reverence for the power that he was about to unleash, because that's what they looked at it as. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to shoot you, boom, boom, boom. No, this was a deadly force that he was going to unleash on somebody, and that's how you knew that you had messed up, because Cyclops is reaching for the visor, and that's
his whole goal was to accomplish whatever needs to accomplish without him having to do that. As the leader of the X-Men, he would have them do what they needed to do, and then if he had to,
then he would do it. Then he would do it. But you diminish his power and his presence when you just make it willy-nilly that he's just like, pew, 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 I'm shooting eye lasers. No. Like Cyclops rarely did it, which is why it was powerful. It's up there with Black Bolt, King of the Inhumans. He rarely yelled because if he had to yell, things were bad.
Yeah.
That's what it was, and that's how you set up stakes.
And when they wrote him, it was very, very rare there would be a yell. And be like, no.
At best, no. And you're like, whoa, he spoke. Oh my God. Everything. Come on. And that's the part right there where the disrespect comes in. It's so, again, I'm not against change, but don't diminish in order to change. Like that's the part, writers today, please heed that. You don't have to diminish somebody to uplift anybody else. Like that's a social thing. Like
I was going to say,
yeah,
one of the things that I've realized, and I've had this discussion with a couple of people, it's that people don't like to write heroic characters.
That's true.
They want to write anti-hero characters.
Yeah.
And because Cyclops was this heroic character,
mm-hmm.
they were like, no, we don't like that. We don't want him to be a heroic. We want him to have all these flaws. And I'm like, heroic characters have flaws.
Sure.
The reason why they're great is because they rise above their flaws. It doesn't mean there's no flaws there.
Right.
And as a writer, it always surprises me when people go, well, the anti-hero this and the anti-hero that, and it's easy, it's better to write, and it's more juicy, it's more, and I'm always like, call that lazy.
Yeah. Yes. 100%.
I'm like, dude, if you can't write a heroic character, because what they say is that they're easy, they're boring, but I'm like, if I feel like you're not being able to write the heroic character means that you're not wrapping your brain around what the heroic character is.
Exactly. Anytime that I've heard a writer talk about the difficulty of writing Superman, he's too perfect, he's too this, he's too that. The failure is not in Superman. It is in your perspective about Superman.
Exactly.
I'm a huge fan of All-Star Superman. It's one of my favorite books of all time. And the idea that in almost 80 years of his publication, Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely could come in and tell almost the perfect Superman story. That's 80, like literally almost 80 years of context that they can go, no, we still got something else we could say. We still got something cool. And it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And you get it. Like, who is Superman? At his core, yes, he is this bastion of greatness, of hope, and everything that you hope for. But the thing is like, you can still tell great stories.
Yeah.
That challenge him, that challenge other people around him. Please don't say that. Please. Like, I hate the term OP. Yeah. When anybody says, oh, something is OP, I'm like, no, you just haven't figured it out. Like, you haven't thought it through yet to say that they're overpowered. No, you're just being lazy in terms of what you think could defeat them.
And it's so funny because recently I was, I forgot where I was, but somebody said the amazing thing about Superman is the fact that this guy has so much power and he chooses to do good.
Yes.
He chooses to do what he does.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, that defines Superman.
It does.
That's what it is. You have so much power and he's doing the good because he chooses to do good. And I feel like in our society, we're looking for people like that.
Yeah.
We're looking for people who have power to go, I'm going to do this for the good of the humankind.
Like, I'm not even worried about me right now. What it is what can I use this for to help you? That's the thing. And, I think what's really interesting when it comes to Superman is the contextual, evolution of things. So like, we used to think that the reason why this came about was he was raised in the farmlands, right? The work ethic of middle-class farmers, Midwesterners is different than city goers. And that was always the comparative. But, in recent years, we're seeing a totally different, political structure, socioeconomic structure, and, perspective dynamic that one would question, like, well, would Superman still have that ideal, self raised in this culture? Or is it just as, somewhat corrosive as city living? I think we're finding out like, no, it really would be just as corrosive, just maybe in a different way. So what makes Superman great is Superman. It's not any one particular thing of how he was raised. It was his choices. It was literally like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this.
Exactly.
Because this is better.
I feel like this is the right thing to do, so I am going to do this.
I'm going to do that. Mom, Dad, you disagree. I'm sorry, but this is what I'm going to do.
And here we go. Angel says, the struggle of the heroic characters are always the best stories. Case in point, Scott Snyder's Superman run damn good. Definitely. Shout out to Scott. Again, one of my pals, and I agree. I think in terms of that though, like one of the best things is Peter Parker as Spider-Man is a heroic character. Exactly.
They're sure, like when he got the symbiote, he tiptoed into anti-hero territory, but that was what made the story interesting, was him changing, but then still being like, no, I don't want this. I am heroic.
This is not who I am. And see, you can do stories where they dip into that, but just bring them back to who they are. I feel like what they usually do is once they throw you into anti-hero territory, they leave there.
This is where you live. Those are your waters. You swim. No, like it's fine if you want to mirror that. You want to take and that's the other thing. Like whenever you do something like that as a mirror, it makes you appreciate even more what you've already had. That's Star Trek would do that, when they would take you to the mirror universe and you realize, oh snap, an evil Spock is terrible. I'm so glad we don't have an evil Spock. Exactly. That's what, that's the benefit of that. But yeah, too often it becomes avant-garde and in vogue to make a character that is so good, become this, kind of corrupted version of themselves. And you're like, you don't have to do that. No. But like I said, that's the thing that I liked about Cyclops as a character by him going bad, that is a statement of how he feels about Xavier's dream. And it's not just, oh, I'm bad. And it's like, I don't believe in this anymore. And now you're like, well, wow, that's an interesting, take on this guy. But if they bring him back, he will be even more dynamic because you're like, he touched the darkness.
And I feel like because you lost who the character was before that happened, that change for I don't believe in Xavier's dream anymore. You're like, oh well, yeah, we saw that happening because he was already in that direction. But I feel like if he was still that heroic character,
right,
and then he would have been like, I don't believe in Xavier's dream, you would have been like,
oh my god, like what? Exactly. What do you believe? Like
exactly?
Are you saying Magneto's right? Oh my god, like those are the things
that would have been a bigger shock because you had him polluted him, when you're going to make a story like that, you want to pick your stories.
Yes.
You don't decide, okay, we're going to make them whatever. So when you do a story like this, the impact isn't as huge. You're like, okay, so yeah, he doesn't like Xavier's dream anymore. But yeah, I saw that coming because he's been doing this and this and this and this.
Exactly. It's in taking a character like Magneto and flipping that angle. When they made Magneto headmaster and he took over, governing the New Mutants, he was still very much Magneto. So it was such a shock that he was trying to do something right for his friend, because that's the other thing people got to remember. Like Xavier and Magneto were friends, like best friends. Yeah. So when, Xavier's like, hey, listen, I know we disagree all the time, but I don't trust anybody else to take care of these kids but you. That's a huge statement because it's the lack of ideological clash, but saying, but okay, I don't like how you do this, but we actually want the same thing.
Right.
And I know you'll get this done to protect them. And, how did the world react? The world still looked at Magneto as a villain. So that's when you had the trial of Magneto, and he was willing to even do that because he was trying to turn over a new leaf. There's so much good storytelling when you don't corrupt and diminish a character for no reason.
Exactly.
Like,
or at least stay true to the character.
Yes. That's oh my goodness. Oh man, you just got me all hyped up. I'm ready to read some old stuff, write some new stuff.
Oh my god, this is like the greatest comic conversation I've had in a while.
Yes.
So, but we should get to what you do and who you are.
Yeah.
Because we've been geeking out here, but let's get back to this. All right, so I want you to tell the audience what you do, who you are. Give us all the goodies.
Okay.
Let us see what's going on.
Of course. So as we're like 40 minutes in, I'm just now introducing myself. I'm Victor Dandridge. I'm a self-publishing comic creator born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. I self-published through my imprint, Vantage Inhouse Productions, which I started full-time in 2010. I left a cushy state job because I woke up and could not stand not making comics full-time. And, when you have that thing, you're like, I got to do this. This is who I am, like we were just talking about. And you got to be authentic to that self. I left, like I said, a cushy state job, started making comics, launched my first book in 2011. It's called The Samaritan. You can actually see the poster for it just over my shoulder here. And we've grown over, the last 11 years, having multiple titles. We start off with initially 4 to 5 titles, if you want to count it that way. About 24 issues between all 5. And, some of them are award winning. Some of them are just critically acclaimed, ranging from all ages friendly with Wonder Care presents the Kinderguardians. It's a series that I do with my buddy Justin Castaneda. Yeah, the Kinderguardians. Like, come on, like that is the response right there. Man. Thank you. It's Muppet Babies meets the Justice League. So
I like that.
Thank you. And that's a fun series that I love it with all my heart. I did a teen-oriented anthology series called Origins Unknown with Jacob Newell. Then we did The Trouble with Love. That's Harold Edge on art. Ryan Carter did the colors on that one. And that one is a one-shot. And this is, okay, so in terms of what we were talking about, I did a story where Superman has a wife and a family, but falls in love with someone else. Part of the reason why I wanted to do this is because I had that story to tell, but I would never tell that story at DC Comics because that is not Superman, and recognizing that's part of the benefit of being in the indie comics market is I can tell stories that wouldn't work, with this particular character. I can play with the character type, but that's, and that's a very different story. So we did The Trouble with Love, which is a fantastic read. I highly recommend it to everyone. And we also did the Samaritan series, which is a little bit more like, let me say this so I don't get in trouble. It's an urban take on superheroics. Did you watch the Marvel Netflix Luke Cage series?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
It was interesting.
Okay, I'll take that. So the first 3 episodes of the first season is almost the Samaritan verbatim, like almost. So I rather than be upset or anything like that, I will say that Luke Cage is a multi-million-dollar commercial for my book, and I didn't have to pay for it. So if you like Luke Cage, you'll love the Samaritan book. So definitely pick that up. And then last but not least, in that first setup, we did Old Crazy and the 40 Ounces of Death. I did with Brian Moss. I'm sorry. For the Samaritan, I got to give a shout out to my brother, Ren McKenzie. He did the artwork for that one. I don't want to leave him out. But Old Crazy and the 40 Ounces of Death, I did with Brian Moss, and it's an homage to Sam Jackson and Quentin Tarantino films and a little-known movie starring Bill Cosby. Sorry, guys. Called Leonard Part 6.
I remember.
Do you remember Leonard Part 6? Yeah. Like, nobody. Okay. Like, are we related? Like, what is this? Like, seriously. Like, nobody remembers Leonard Part 6. And when I bring this up, people are like, what is that? I'm like, it's this brilliant spoof spy comedy that is the 6th part in a series. The funny part is 1 through 5 don't exist. And they're like, what? And I'm like, it's hilarious. Like, they talk like all these things happen.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. So with Old Crazy, we only did book 4 out of 4. Only issue 4 actually exists because I wanted to test storytelling and seeing, we are now in this culture where if you don't start at the beginning, then you claim you can't read it or it doesn't count. So that's not the culture that we came into comics with, though, because my first book was Fantastic Four number whatever, because that's what I had,
That's another conversation right there. Not to like sidetrack, but I hate the fact that they decided, we're going to discontinue the numbers because nobody's going to want to read this book in issue 545. I'm like,
that's not true. That's not true.
All right.
Exactly. So yeah, those are the starting lineups of Vantage Inhouse Productions. And over the last year, we've actually expanded from those 5 to I think we're clocking at 14 titles now. So we've put in a lot of work to kind of tell a cohesive story that now takes these individual titles that weren't connected initially, much in the same way that Marvel and DC weren't connected initially, but finding ways to thread them through and now make this longer narrative of a shared multiverse. And right now I'm actually in the final hours. I think we have like 40 hours left of a Kickstarter running right now, the VIP Phase 2-in-1, that is going to continue. It's the first sequel series that we've produced from the imprint. So it's fantastic. I'm having a blast. Absolute blast. Yes, that's it right there. Absolutely. So yes, it's been
that's one of the reasons why I was like, okay, I can have him come back next Wednesday, but no. I want him to be able to discuss this before it ends.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm happy I did that because today's been a great show.
Yes. Oh my God, dude. Like I'm feeling like we're such a kindred spirit right now. Like I feel like we've been friends for a long time.
That's what I feel like. Exactly.
Yes, that's the best.
Even when we were in the green room, I was like, wow, I think we might have wasted all the energy, but no, we brought the energy back over.
No. We still got plenty. No, this is good stuff. This is good stuff. But yeah, that's what Vantage Inhouse is all about, is telling great stories. Unlike a number of other indie publishers, and no diss to them, no shade whatsoever. I don't aim to do monthly ongoing series.
Right.
I try to do more of a European band designated sort of style, where it's a short mini series that captures what the story is, and we'll do a few different mini series that you can collect and read. And our biggest effort is that by aiming at different readership groups, you can grow in the context of what we're reading. So if you're a little kid and you start off with the Kindergartens, awesome. As you get older, then you can get introduced to what Origins Unknown sets up, and then you can get introduced to what The Trouble with Love sets up, and then you can go into the Samaritan. So we have something that basically will grow with you. If you're a fan of my writing, if you want to keep going with it, you can. But at the same time, it's just a doorway, a gateway for the rest of the market. If you want to see other books that are like this, we gladly recommend some. I have no problems, comparing my stuff to other characters or other titles that exist, because I think that's important. It's never, that I have to be the lion's share. It's, I want to be a part of the conversation of greatness, and that's, because I there's no way in my heart and mind that I could ever fix my face to say that I will ever be a better writer than Stan Lee. Never. I could not say that with any sense of authenticity and meaning ever. So if I can get included in the conversation of great comic book writers, and you say Victor Dandridge and Stan Lee were my favorites, I've done my job. That's
a good goal to go for. So let's see. Angel's been busy over here. Hold on. He said, "Damn good convo." I agree.
Absolutely. Thank you.
He called it gangsta. Let's see. Superman owes child support.
I mean, you're not wrong. Okay, you're not wrong.
Shot you a follow, brother, from my Son of Saint account. Son of
Appreciate
Saint.
that.
Definitely want to check out your stuff.
Thank you.
On Instagram. All right,
done.
There you go.
Done and done. I will definitely.
Now that I got that out of the way, it's funny that you mentioned something that I've been talking about recently too, which is the fact that I feel like we've gone away from bringing children into this comic society. We're not letting them join in.
Nope.
I feel like the children comics are kind of lost out there. I'm not saying they're not there. I'm just saying that there's no consistent.
Yes.
Because I feel like when they get older they'll read comics. I'm like, no, they're not.
No, because you didn't give it to them at the right point. Okay, so here's such a brilliant observation that you just said, and I'm going to try to stand on your shoulders on this one. When we came into comics, the comics that were written for you, being 10 years older than I am, were just as accessible to me, me being 10 years younger than you. They were the same stories. There was the same level of greatness and intricacy that we could just get into it mutually. And it wasn't an issue of, well, I'm not old enough to understand this story or something like that. One of the biggest follies that I have talked about, I've been on panels talking about it. I loved the Black Panther movie. I did. It was a great movie, a great movie experience. Does it have its problems? Absolutely, without question. One of the biggest problems that Marvel Studios / Marvel / Disney failed on was that when that movie came out, they did not have a Black Panther series that was accessible to the young audience that went to go see that movie. No disrespect to Ta-Nehisi Coates. He's a fantastic writer, but he writes at a level that is inaccessible to an 8-year-old. There are things that he's talking about that either age appropriate might be too much, or contextually might be too much. It's not a fun adventure like that movie was. It was deeper, it was heavier, it was a little bit more just entangled with all kinds of other stuff that they did not have the right thing to follow up that phenomenon of a movie that made it accessible for little kids. It took them almost like 2 years, whether that was the Marvel Action series or Shuri getting her own comic series. That took way too long to capitalize on that popularity. And those are the things that are missing out. We are not making things accessible for the younger readers. And how do we expect to have the next generation of readers if we don't build them right now?
Exactly. And I feel like, that's where the industry is losing itself, because, the reason we are collectors, or we are like comics now, is because we were introduced to it at a really early young age.
Yep.
You know, and we grew up with the comic books in our lives. You know, and I feel like two things are lost. They don't seem to care about older generation readers, which is funny to say because you know, that's who they're aiming their stuff at,
right?
And at the same time, they don't care about the new generation coming in. And I say this because what they're doing usually alienates both of those.
Yes.
There's very rare that the older generation is like, oh my God, look at this. Sometimes they're just following because they're following, or they like whatever story they're looking at that particular point. And as for kids, you know, the money alone will scare kids away. If I had $5, I'm not going to buy a comic. I'm probably going to buy candy, a toy, whatever it is. You know, not that $5 go that far anymore.
That's true. Listen, because when we was growing up, $5, man, you was a kingpin. You had it all. You could get the candy, the comics, the toys.
To get $5 for comics, you had like a good amount of comics.
Oh man, you had comics for days. Yeah. Like you would just be sitting there like, I haven't even read that yet.
How much money did you have? I had a whole $5.
What? Oh my God. Listen, when I was growing up, $5 at the candy store, you were essentially a crackhead. Okay.
Yeah,
you were strung out.
You were paying for yourself and your friends.
You know it. Like, hey, it's on me. It's on me. It's cool. If you ate $5 worth of candy when you was growing up, they'd find you in an alley somewhere just cooing. You're just like, oh my God, I'm too much sugar. Like, yeah.
Angel's like, $5 can't buy you lunch.
Right?
A pizza, come on. A pizza's like $2 and change.
Come on. That's a slice. $2 a slice. Like, come on. You know, I remember when it was like 50 cents a slice. You was good. You can get lunch off.
I remember what my conundrum was. Do I buy a slice or do I buy a comic?
That's a real conundrum. Do I want to eat now or not?
Exactly. If I wait till I get home, I can get my comic.
Right. You know, like, look, and I can read the comic again. Like that'll make it work. But no, you're absolutely right. Like they change things in a way that alienates longtime readers because it's not true to the character type. But then you try to write a story that is so over the top in terms of its context, or even in some of the subject matter, hypersexualizing, so many different things that little kids can't have access. And, it's killing me. It's absolutely killing me. It's one of the reasons why I started You Create Comics, because, our motto is kids who create comics will read comics, and kids who read comics can read anything. So we try to give you an entrance point. Here's something in your classroom. I'm going to where you are, number one. And number two, I'm getting you involved in what this is and making sure that it's something that is to your level. Literally the reason why I even, produced Wonder Care Presents the Kindergartens is because I was going into schools, but didn't have something age appropriate for them to read to see of mine. And I'm like, no, I got to change that. Let's do this kid-friendly title. And, now I have something that whenever I go into a school and well, what books do you make? Well, I have this all ages friendly title right here. And that's the other thing. All ages is not for kids. The comics we grew up on, those were all ages.
All ages. Yeah.
It didn't, you could be a grown up and read it. You could be a kid and read it. Yeah. It's one of the reasons why I think manga is winning, it's the truth. Like manga is written in a way that grown-ups can read it and little kids can read it.
Yep.
Same thing. True all ages.
Angel's like, I miss those days.
You and me both. I go through some of my collection now and I'm like, I only paid what for this?
You're completely right. And it's funny because, I remember Iron Man and his alcoholic problems.
Yeah.
And I still, as a kid, read those books.
Yep.
And it was something I didn't understand, but at the same time, it was still friendly for me.
Yeah. You knew that it was something wrong, right? You might not understand through experience how bad it was. That's something that you develop as you get older, but you understood like, hey, demon in a bottle, this thing is hurting him. And, be cognizant of this, be aware of it. At this point now, they don't write stories like that.
And the other funny thing is, if you had a parent that was going through that stuff, as a kid, you're like, well, Iron Man's going through it. Oh, there goes that thing, that connection again.
Yep. And that's the thing that we are missing. I am a black comic writer or creator is what I am. It's not necessarily who I am. And the reason why I specify that difference is I aim to speak to things, to people through my experience that is a universal, right? So just like we were talking about off air, Batman as a character, you can look and go, oh, it's a rich white guy. And that's only accessible to a certain point. Or you could say, this is a guy that survived the gun violence of a family member, and that becomes way more accessible to a ton of people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that I'm trying to aim for in what I create and how I write things. And that's the thing that too many people are so looking for demographic check marks that they fail to be able to see themselves in people that don't look like them. And when you can't do that, other people fail to see themselves in you.
Right.
And that's what is dividing us on every level, that we really like, you know, comics used to get us together. Like that's what it was for. It was so great. We got to get back to that. Like Angel said, I miss those days. Like that's 100% where I want to get back
you're saying that, because, you know, we go back to Spider-Man, and the way he's created is, you know, if you're a teenager and you're going through these problems, you're gonna be like, oh my God, you know,
that's me.
And that's the whole thing. It doesn't matter if Spidey's white or black or whatever. You're like, those are the same problems I'm having, you know. And you know, Spidey was from a poor neighborhood
in Queens.
Yeah,
like, yo, dude struggled. Like we get that, you know. Oh snap! Like I would beat you down right now, but I'm out of web fluid. Like I don't have the money to buy the materials to make more web fluid. You so lucky. Ooh, like. He had the same choice between getting a comic book and getting a slice of pizza. Like that was Peter. And it's in that way, again, that we need to see more things that aren't about direct representation as a checklist,
right? But
representation by way of saying these are authentic people. Find yourself in them.
And you're so right, because you know, I've heard bunch, like, you know, in this industry, you have a lot of conversations, and every once in a while I'll get a conversation like, well, how can you be so attached to Spider-Man? He's a white kid. You know, how does that represent you? And I'm like, well, I keep telling you, but you're not listening to me.
Like I can just run it down again.
Me. Exactly.
Boom.
This is where I connect. Right here, I'm telling you how I connect with, but he's not you. He doesn't look like you.
That's
and I'm
not
like,
the connection.
Bro, I understand that seeing somebody that looks like you is important.
Sure.
I'm not going to take that away. And I've seen that. I've seen how little kids go, oh my God. I remember our boss here at Bit and Apple Cadman was at one of the conventions. She was dressed like Storm. And all the little black girls were like, oh my God, you know, it's Storm. I can be Storm. You know, I can be like that. And, you know, it's such a moving moment, you know, which talks about cosplay as well, and the representation of people of color in cosplay, you know, because it is important for us to see ourselves.
Absolutely.
At the same time, we need characters that we can see are having issues like we are having.
Yes.
Or we can see ourselves in, even if they're not our same color.
Yes, that is 100% it. I'll tell you, one of the greatest things that I saw coming out of Black Panther were the number of little white girls who wanted to be Black Panther. And I'm like, that's powerful.
That's amazing.
Because you're not the same gender, you're not the same race, and you see value in that character. That's what we want. You know, that's what we should be aiming for.
And we're talking about that. We also saw a lot of little girls who wanted to be like, you know, the guards.
Yes.
You know,
because y'all were the protector.
Powerful, strong woman. Yeah.
Dope. Like listen, my sons were like, yo, I want to be a Dora Milaje. I'm like, you daggone right you do. Like that's you absolutely right. And it's funny because, like, you know, I have my, you know, geekdom opinions. I'm not a fan of the first Wonder Woman movie. Like I actually hated it quite a bit. The reason is because I'm a huge Wonder Woman fan. Like I love Wonder Woman. And in the sense of character and strength, there were a lot of things that, in a critical way, while I'm proud that the movie exists, because you have to have a benchmark to grow from.
Exactly.
Like if you don't at least get your foot in the door, then you have nothing. So I'm very proud that there is something there for me to critique. But at the same time, I wanted more. I wanted better. I wanted a Wonder Woman that didn't ask for permission, whether directly or indirectly, because to me, Wonder Woman is the message that if you can, you should.
Right.
You know, she is the ultimate, you know, what is that? Shopping cart test. I can do this, so that's what I'm doing. Just that simple, you know. And my biggest point on that one is the no man's land crossing scene. My idea of Diana would never have gone to Steve Trevor to say, oh, we need to cross over. You know, we need to go help these people.
She would have just done it.
She would have just done it. Steve would have turned around and be like, yo, where's the, oh my God. And that's Wonder Woman, because she can, she's going to.
Exactly.
Just that simple. You know.
And I agree with you. I think I like the movie a little bit more than you do,
Which is
just because of what it represents. You know, and I remember watching it going, my daughter needs to see this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I completely agree with you. There are moments in the movie that just, I was like, oh, that didn't need to be there. That didn't need to be there. The love story, I'm like, I understand the Steve Trevor Wonder Woman love story, and it's important to the character, but at the same time, I feel like the first movie should have been more about, you know, Wonder Woman.
Okay. Like, seriously, you're my big brother now. You are my big brother now. I'm just gonna call you. I'm gonna tell my kids, it's Uncle Ralph over here. I'm on the phone with him. This is what we're doing. That's it. Like, yes.
Here's another important thing that Son of Saint says here. He goes, Stan Lee says Spider-Man can be anyone under the mask, and I love that speech that Stan Lee gives. You know, it always inspires me. You know, anybody can be Spider-Man. Anybody. You know, it's an incredible speech.
It's true. It's true, and it's the idea behind that of the anonymity that Peter Parker gains and the strength within that by being everybody. When he pulls down that mask, there's a strength. Like, if you read it, Peter Parker is scared of people, right? Yeah. Like, he's shy, introverted. He doesn't exude anything.
Nope.
The moment he pulls down that mask and he can be anything he wants, that's all of us.
Wise ass. Funny as hell.
Yes, strong. Like,
exactly.
It's almost a personality disorder, right? Like, when he takes that off, he's like, oh nope, I can't. As soon as he pulls down, he's like, your mom, and you're like, whoa, where did that come from? It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant, and it speaks to that idea that Spider-Man could literally be anybody.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. I love it. I absolutely.
You know, and some of the greatest stories I saw with Spider-Man was when he would confront racist people and be like, how do you know I'm not black under the mask?
Right, and they're like,
those moments were incredible, because, you know, we know that he's not, but at the same time, that the character that
they don't know, and you know,
he's right.
Posed that question.
It could be somebody who's black under the mask. It could be anybody under the mask.
No,
yeah.
You don't know me. You know, and that's, I love it. So,
and he goes, it also speaks volumes that wearing the mask, he still chooses to do the right thing.
That's right, because he could have that anonymity and do whatever he wants, but he's still like, again, shopping cart test. Exactly. Let me do the right thing. Especially with him, it's the best thing, because that's the basis of his story. He, at one point, did not put the shopping cart back, and the worst thing possible happened. And so from now on, I will always put the shopping cart back.
And that's what bugs me out with people when they go, oh, I don't understand what Uncle Ben, you know, is so important. That's why Uncle Ben is so important, because he decided the reason Uncle Ben's death is so important is because Spider-Man decided not to stop that criminal when he could have stopped the criminal.
That's right.
And because of his action, you know, Uncle Ben dies.
That's right.
It's not because Uncle Ben dies, it's because of his action that Uncle Ben dies, that it affects him and makes him who he is.
Yes. It is a cause and effect situation. It is not just as mundane as, oh, his uncle died. No. It is why his uncle died. It is the fact that if Peter had just done what he could,
exactly,
his uncle would still be alive, because that dude wouldn't have been around to harm him. Like,
it would have been in jail. It would have been somewhere else. And I feel like that's an important message. You know, it's the whole concept of being able to do good and choosing not to.
Yep. That's, oh my goodness, that is such a great one. I love it.
You know, and a lot of people always go, you know, I'm pretty spiritual. You know, I don't usually talk about it too much, but, you know, that's I feel like the worst sin in the world is being able to do good and choosing not to.
Yeah. No, because there's a different kind of darkness.
Exactly.
In that, you know, it's one thing when you can't.
Yeah.
There is, so in that regard, we're gonna bring it back around. Oh, this is so perfect, man. You are good. So in my series, The Samaritan, Urban Tech on Superheroics, what we play around with directly is the idea of who is responsible for the environment that they're in. And the first person that, the main character Smith saves is a kid. And the idea there is that is the one person that's never responsible for the world that they're brought into. Like they don't have the power to change it. So they are free and clear of any sort of real responsibility for the situation that they're in.
Right.
But every person that he encounters after that becomes almost a litmus test of their sense of responsibility. We go from a drug abuser, and he's like, okay, I can help you if you want me to. And situation kind of goes a little sideways, and so he intervenes in a different way. Then we go into domestic violence, and he intervenes, and the person's like, well, wait, don't hurt this other person. He's like, look, I'm telling you right now, if this is the way you want me to do this, whatever happens, I'm gonna let it be on you. I can either remove this situation. I understood before, like, you didn't have the strength to do this,
right?
But I'm here now, and I can remove this thing.
I can help you.
But if you choose to stay, you chose to stay. Boom. And then we have a young lady that, in the story, she is a prostitute, but she is not it's of her own volition.
Right.
And she gets to a point where she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. So when it comes to it, he lets her attempt to leave on her own, even though her handler gets a little violent. He's like, I'm trying to let you do this on your own because that's what you want. And I want to give you that opportunity to uplift yourself. And then when things, go too far, then he's like, okay, I'm going to step in. I'm going to step in now, but good job. Sense. Like you tried.
And that's important because it allows the person, which is how life is. It allows the person to make that decision. And because they can't do it on their own after they made the decision,
right
now you come and help them. Right. And sometimes, we as people have problems figuring out when we should help somebody and when we shouldn't help somebody.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that choice is always there. That choice is always,
of course,
like, I could choose to help you right now, but I think you need to decide that, and if you're looking at Alcoholics Anonymous,
right.
When you're ready to give it up is when you decide, I need to give this up.
Right.
If the choice is taken away from you, then you're still going to be that alcoholic.
Yeah, it's not going to be the same at all.
No.
And that's the thing that we play around with this series is, again, spiritually based. The Samaritan, the parable of the Good Samaritan is what it's all about. Here's a guy that has the actual power to affect change. And unlike Superman, and I love Superman, he's literally the first, story that got me into comics was the death of Superman. Superman flies above you to create a sense of, I know, right? I love it so much. He flies above you to inspire you. Smith walks amongst you to change you.
Exactly.
And that's the biggest difference. He is going to instigate change as opposed to inspire change. Now you're going to switch up. I'm going to show you either you're going to switch up of your own volition or because I'm going to make you uncomfortable until you do it. That's what it is. And, it's a whole different conversation, but I love it, because again, it's showing the enrichment value of what comics can do.
See, that's the whole thing. As friends, we've been there. We've made people uncomfortable so they can change.
Yep.
We've helped them out so they can change.
Oh my God. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we know that if the person decides that they don't want to change, they're not going to change.
Right. And then, but then at the same time, you played your part.
Support them and stay there, or decide, well, you're toxic to me, and I need to let you go.
I gotta go do me.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Comics, y'all. It's the value of comics.
It's so funny. We're talking like this, and somebody's out there going, "What? They're not talking comics."
Yes, we are.
This is like something else. Come on,
comics. Okay, yeah. This is tie a blanket around your neck, run around outside. Comics, like that's what this is.
What bugs me out the most these days is how people go, "Oh, why are they putting politics? Why are they putting these things into comics?" And I'm like, dude, did you read the X-Men when the X-Men started? It was all about politics.
I go so hard on people. I go super hard on people that say that. I'm like, so you've never seen Captain America #1? And they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, in Captain America #1 in 1941, okay, March of 1941, Captain America is punching Hitler. And they're like, yeah, but it's Hitler. I was like, at that time, Hitler was a foreign head of state, and the United States had not formally joined the war yet.
Exactly. So
that is political.
Yeah.
Okay.
because a lot of people didn't like that. A lot of people were like, well, we should stay out of this.
Right.
Which was the main consensus in America. The main consensus in America is we're not going to get into this war.
Right. So the idea that that's on the cover of one of the most iconic characters of all time, like politics have always been a part of comics.
Always.
Like, come on, guys. In fact, like if you look at it, I've had this thought train. Ride with me on this one. So Captain America #1, Cap's punching Hitler. If Hitler felt threatened by this, right, and somehow convinced the Japanese to bomb Pearl Harbor because of it, like this was a sentiment that America was going to join the fight and they're going to try to deter America from doing so.
Right.
The Japanese bomb Pearl Harbor. We enter the war through chain of events. We nuke Japan twice. The nuking of Japan is where they got the impetus or idea of Godzilla. So did Captain America #1 lead us to having Godzilla and kaiju as a subject matter?
That's interesting. That's an interesting connection there,
right? Like, it's weird, but
yeah, because I know the whole concept of the whole nuclear bomb fell, and that's where the whole Godzilla idea comes from. Cause and effect again. And it's funny as writing. To bring it all back down to what the show's about. It's the whole concept that people always tell me, well, I don't have anything to write about, Ralph. I can't be a writer because there's nothing I can write about. And I'm like, dude, man, you have so much that you can write about. If you're going to decide not to be a writer, you can decide not to be a writer.
Right. Don't use that excuse.
Exactly. You are a writer because you can write. Now, I'm not going to say that you're a great writer because that takes time to get there. Like a video game, you got to level up. You got to do that achievements. Achievement, author.
Got a golden book floating around your head.
Right? You can be a writer.
That's right.
You write what you and I know that a lot of people go, I don't understand this whole concept of write what you know. It's not write what you know. It's write what you know, which means that you write from your point of view. You write from all the things you've gone through. You write from all the things you've done because that makes it easier to write.
It froze on me for a second. So I didn't catch what you said, but I'm going to agree with you because I definitely think that what you're saying is right. Because that's the thing. Like, so we're comic book guys. I don't know what it's like to have superpowers. I really don't.
Yeah.
So clearly the idea of what I'm writing, when I say write what I know, is not those specifics. That's part of the creativity of writing. But, when you can write something authentic, if you can write a Facebook post, you're a writer.
Yeah.
You're telling a story.
Exactly.
And the biggest thing that I try to tell people, students included, is that the Webster definition of a story, I don't agree with. They say it's a retelling of a series of events. And I say the thing that makes it a story is inducing how either the characters within the story feel or invoking a feeling from the person that's reading it. That's when it's a story. So if you can tell in a Facebook post, this happened to me and I went to this restaurant and the service was so bad and you guys should agree with me, you're a writer.
Exactly. And it's so funny because I get it all the time, and it's like, and I'm like, dude, anybody can write. Yeah. Anybody can write. Becoming a writer is another step. Sure. Becoming an author is another step. Yep. Becoming published is another step. Those are other steps, but anybody can write.
It's Ratatouille. Anyone can cook.
Exactly.
Like that's literally what it is, and that's the beauty of that movie right there. Just to shout out Ratatouille because I love that movie.
It's a great movie. Yeah.
Ego had to learn that the statement wasn't to diminish the skill of a chef, because not everyone can be a chef.
Bingo.
But in order to have this base understanding, anyone can cook. There's no barrier of entry for that skill level. In fact, they teach it to you in school because they expect you to be able to do it. So everyone can. Like, come on. Love yourself more.
Exactly. And that's the whole thing, and you touch upon something really important. I know people get upset when you go, we got to love yourself. See, there's this concept that, we're saying something that's unimaginable, but when you're loving yourself, it has nothing to do with loving yourself. It has to do with doing things that make your life better.
Yes. Yes. 100%. Oh my God. That's your positive message for the year, people. That's it for the year. Yes, do things for yourself that makes life better, exactly. Right? And when your life is better, pay it forward and you make life better for other people, that's it.
That's life. That's what life is about.
That's it. That's when it works.
Exactly.
Okay. If you think about it, like most of the time when it doesn't work is when you're not doing that. Just throwing it out there. Yes.
Especially in this industry, and I think that's one of the things I like about you and your organization and what you're doing. You're lifting each other up.
Yes.
And I always believe that the best way to become something else, the way to reach that road that we're all trying to reach with, is make sure you're pulling everybody up with you. Because we're brothers and sisters. Absolutely. We're all in the same industry. We're all in the same thing. If I have a chance to pull you up, I'm going to pull you up. Yes. If you have a chance to pull me up, then go ahead.
Come on. Bring me up. I'm ready. I got ropes and pulleys. Let's go.
Exactly.
I'm a huge proponent of share your cookbook. When you do that, and this is the way I think. So there's a lot of people that are like, well, I don't want to do that because what if somebody copies me? If somebody can copy what I do right now and have the same level of success, then I got to step my game up. And that's called testing your mettle, right? Exactly. Steel sharpens steel. So if you can do what I do and you can do it as well, one, it proves that what I was doing works because I could show you how to do it.
Exactly.
Two, if I want to continue advancing, I now have to step my game up because this next group is going to naturally be able to do what I sought, really hard to do.
Worked hard to do, yeah.
Yeah. Look at basketball, right? Like there was a time when the idea of dunking a basketball was crazy. Like nobody could do it. Now you can't get in the league if you can't dunk a ball. Like that's just like they come in. Like
before it was just the stars that did it. Now everybody has to do it.
Everybody, like even the dude that's like 6th string and he doesn't even get a ring if they win, but he can dunk because that's the way he got into the league. Like super important.
Angel's
super
like,
important.
Ooh, quoting scripture.
I'm just saying. The truth is truth. Okay, that's what it is.
The funny thing about Son of Saint, the reason he's Son of Saint is because he's the son of a pastor.
Oh, so the stories that you can tell, those are always the best ones. Those are always the best.
And
ones.
Son of Saint is a great guy. He has some beautiful art. He's an amazing guy. I like when he comes on and supports.
Love it.
And he always puts stuff into the conversation.
Yes. I can't wait to follow you on IG as soon as we're done. Like for real. I cannot wait.
He has stuff.
Oh, let's go. Let's go.
All right, so we're way past where we should have probably ended.
Oh,
but I'm having way too much fun. But just for the sake of it, what's your final word? What do you want to leave our audience with?
Well, I always try to leave with something positive. So here's the thing. I want to let everybody know that what I am is the living example that you can do whatever it is that you set your mind to. Again, I left a cushy state job. I have a family that I'm raising. And the thing about it is I wake up every day excited to get the job done because I'm doing something I love and find whatever that might be. We're at a time in life where the practical 9 to 5, there is a necessity for it, but you could find something that can replace it that you will love if you just put in the effort. If you put in the time, make it happen, you can do this. And again, when you fulfill yourself like that, when you do for you, love yourself, you will love everybody else that much more. And yeah, please do that.
That is a great message to leave this with. Yeah, fantastic message. Again, I'm going to put this up so you guys can see it. They only have a couple of hours left on their thing. There it is. Right. Let me put it to a level where you guys can see it.
Surely.
The art is beautiful here.
Thank you. Thank you.
And what I'm looking at here is just amazing.
Thank you. I got to give a shout out. Harold Edge returns for the sequel to The Trouble with Love, a series called Never Too Late. And I'm working with Adam Fields as the penciler and line artist for Point of Authority's Family Ties, which is a sequel to one of the Origins Unknown books. So definitely, if you get a chance, check those out. If you like reading, we got all kinds of good stuff for you to read. And we got plenty of tiers to catch you up on everything that we've produced. So definitely.
That all works. And it looks like you guys are pretty well right now. Hold on.
We're doing all right. We funded in the first 6 hours. We are just over or just under 300% funded for the campaign.
Not bad. Woo.
Yeah. So super appreciate all the love and support that we've gotten so far, but we still got a couple more hours. So come join the party. Come hang out with us. Get some cool comments.
Something I always like to tell people, because people look at Kickstarters and go, well, they succeeded. It's always better to double it. That's when you're comfortable. If you can double whatever they want, that's when they're comfortable. That's when they can actually get the books to you. That's when actually they probably don't have to worry about the next book because they got enough money to start the next book.
Yes, that is literally our position right now. So the more people that pledge to this campaign, the sooner we will get the continuations to you. So yes, please, please, please.
And with that, I'll do what I always do here on the Written Writ. I press the button